We all know that kids can say the darndest things, and I am telling you, some of these questions can stop a mother in her tracks. And my son Cree is no exception. So here are Cree's top tough questions and how I've answered them. Don't forget to hit the bell right next to the subscribe button so you don't miss out on future episodes. Okay, you guys, these are some really tough questions, but these are how I would answer them. Let me know in the comments below how you would answer them. Okay, so one of the first questions that was so tough for me was when my son Cree asked me, why do people die, right? And the first thing that is in my mind is, do I tell him the truth? Or how can I skirt around or beat around the bush as much as I can with this answer? And after wrestling with that, I found that the best way to answer these questions was just to be very truthful, but just to explain them in a way that he can understand. We get older as people, and as we get older as people, God wants us to spend time with our other family and our other friends. And I think when it became really real for him, where he could actually put what I had said in context, was we had just recently lost my grandmother, which was his great-grandmother, and he was able to visit her and see her before she passed. You know, for a while, he kept on saying, you know, Mommy, is Grandma in heaven? Is Grandma in heaven? And I said, yes, she's in heaven with her mother. She's in heaven with her father. So, you know, that's the way that I had answered the question. But there was this one time I was just, you know, talking, like figuratively speaking. I was like, ooh, you know, Mommy's getting old. And then all of a sudden, my son just started to cry. And I was like, oh my gosh, like what's wrong? Like, why are you crying? Why are you crying? And he was like, because you said you're getting old. You're gonna go to heaven. And I was like, no, Cree, not now, not now, not now. It'll be a long time. And what I did tell him, I said, Mommy, you know, eventually we'll be in heaven. But I said, I don't know about to cry. I said, I will always forever be with you. I said, Mommy will never, ever, ever, ever leave you. So that's kind of like how I answer that question. So this is another tough question that my son had asked me, and he said, Mommy, where did I come from? And this is another one where I was like, oh my gosh, like, how do I answer this question? Do I lie? Do I beat around the bush? And I was like, no, you just got to be honest, because I said I would rather him know the answer from me as opposed to him, like, you know, hanging out with his buddy Palo Pizzos, you know what I mean, and hearing it another way. So I'd rather just be honest. So basically, I did tell him where he came from, but I said, you know what? You started out as an egg. God put you in Mommy's belly. I didn't tell him how the egg got there. That conversation has not happened just yet, and I hope it'll be a long time before I have that conversation, but I did tell him how he came out. And then his face, after I said that, it was like, and I was like, yeah, Cree, Mommy thought the same thing. I remember when I was pregnant with my son Cree and my belly was so big, I was like, how in the world is this gonna come out of me? Like, there's no way. Like, I was scared out of my wits. But anyway, that's how I answer that question. Next question is, what is God? And I'm gonna be really honest with you. My mother got to this answer before I did. My mom, she's very much into the church, and my son, he would go over to my mother's house on the weekends, and she would just talk to him about God. She told my son that, you know, God is our Father who lives in heaven, and who watches over his people. And if you have any questions, if you're frustrated about anything, just to ask him. And I thought the cutest thing was one night when my son was like going through something, at school, and I heard him and saw him praying like to God. And I just thought that was the cutest thing. And then sometimes he'll even remind me, he's like, Mom, that's all you have to do is just pray, pray and just ask God, and God will help you out. And I'm like, oh yeah. So that's kind of like how I dealt with that question. Here's another tough question. There are times when my son will ask me for something and I say no. And then he's like, well, Mom, why can't I have that? Corey and I, we feel that it's very important for, our children to not have access to everything. And what I mean by that is not always hear the word yes, like, yes, you can have that. I think it's important to say no sometimes, because we truly want our children to believe that they have to work hard for what they want to have in life. So at a young age, I think it's important to start instilling that responsibility. And we want him to be able to learn how to deal with that, to learn how to deal with not being told yes all the time, because that's dangerous. I think it's very dangerous for a child to have access to everything and anything, because he'll grow up with that mentality that everything is easy. And guess what? Life is not easy. You know what, guys? I feel so blessed to say that my son loves going to school. He's never really asked that question, why do I have to go to school? But he has asked the question, like, why do I need to do my homework, or why I need to do this, or why do I need to read that? Cree loves going to school. Even when he was sick one day, he started crying because he couldn't go to school. I was like, oh my gosh, is this for real? How long is this gonna last? But I think it's just a true testimony to, how great his school is, and how great his environment is. He loves going to school, but he has asked the question, Mommy, why do I have to do this? Mommy, why do I have to read this? And I told him, I said, you know what? Mommy's an actress, right? So Mommy goes on set, she does her job, but guess what? At home, she does homework. And what that is Mommy's learning her lines. I have to learn and memorize my lines. So I'm teaching him that, yes, school is school, but a part of that, you have to take some of your responsibilities home and work on that at home. And what really works with my son is when I give him examples that, he sees and that he can understand. So he sees Mommy learning her lines. I'll say, this is Mommy's homework. Like, this is my homework. So I have to do this to, do a good job at my job. And then I'll say, Mommy has a job, and why does Mommy have a job? So she can be able to take care of you financially and be able to have you go to a great school, or be able to give you clothes and shoes to wear. So I kind of tie all of that in together so he understands that homework and work is not just for nothing. You know what I mean? There's a responsibility that comes along with that. And I'm like, if you want to grow up and be able to have a house and, have a car, you're gonna have to work on your homework. That's just something that you're gonna have to do. So that's how I answer that question. Another question that my son asked me was, I believe he was like around 2 or 3. Don't quote me on this, but it was definitely around the time when he first started learning his colors, and then when kids are just asking so many questions, right? It's just like, why this, why that? You know how when you're driving in the car, right? And it's like, why this, Mommy? Why this, Mommy? Why this? And you're like, oh my gosh. And I remember my son asked me, Mommy, why is the sky blue? And I always keep it real with you guys. When he asked me that question, I said, I don't know. I just do not have the answer. I do not know why the sky is blue. I'm sure it's something really simple and easy. Let me know in the comments below if you know why the sky is blue. So my son, now that he's older, he always asks this question. Why can't I stay up as late as mommy and daddy? I mean, he asks this question over and over and over and over and over again. And of course, my answer at first was because you have to go to school, Cree. You have to go to school the next day. Like, you have to be well rested. And he just could not understand that concept. He just couldn't get it. You know what I mean? He is older, but he is also just 8 years old. So one thing that I've learned with our son is sometimes to just let it go. And what I mean by that is let them learn on their own. I remember growing up, my mom used to say, or I'll always hear her say, he'll learn, she'll learn. And that's what I did with my son. So one of these nights, I let my son, stay up. He woke up the next morning and he was crying. When I say crying, he was like, Mommy, I'm tired. I'm like, see, Cree, this is why Mommy says you need to go to bed earlier, because you have so much to do at school. You have such this long day. You have school, you have homework, you have practice, basketball practice. You have so many things that you have to do. And if you're not well rested, and I said if you don't eat well, then you're going to be tired and it's not going to be fun. It's not going to be enjoyable. So how he learned was he literally had to go through it himself. And this boy goes to bed on time now. If you guys want to know more about my experiences parenting 2 kids, just click the video right there. I'll see you over there. Bye, guys.